All right, so I just wanted to take a minute here, go outside, kind of set up the bucket system a little bit for our tomatoes. So, as I've said before in the last video, we line up our tomatoes along this fence row here, and I'll kind of give you a look here. Right down the row. And there's 4 of them set out right at the moment, but what we will be doing is adding several more, probably about a dozen right along this row here. And we'll probably be digging up and doing some things in between, hopefully growing some other things we can utilize this fence for, and that great sunlight that we get throughout the season right there as well. So I did also want to kind of show you real quick here the bucket system that I use for the tomatoes. The season before last, I grew tomatoes in the back patio, and those tomatoes did pretty well for the most part. I had one plant in particular that did exceptionally well. Grew big tomatoes, and they were better than the other tomatoes of the same variety that I grew. The thing that I found out though was that I had drilled holes along the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket, and the taproot of the one tomato had made its way through the bottom of the bucket and found a crack in the cement and went straight down in through the cement down into the lower ground below, where I'm sure it found other nutrients in order to help it grow stronger and bigger than did the other ones. So noticing that, I figured I would kind of help them along the way in the last season. And what I had done was I had taken the buckets here, I'll show you, and what I had did was I had drilled my holes normally around the bottom edge and the bottom, but I also put in a 3-inch hole to allow for the taproot to be able to make its way through without any problem. And doing that, I found that when I put them over here along the fence line and allowing that taproot to get down, that my tomatoes had grew exceptionally better than they had done the previous seasons before. My tomatoes were growing all the way up and over this fence onto the other side. We'll get back with you in a few more episodes and talk about finishing planting those out as we get closer to our last frost date. I'm sure it's coming up real quick. We're about to hit some really warm weather, and I think that's about going to do it for the season. We're going to start planting out everything. So we'll have a couple of those things coming up. We're going to head inside right now and go ahead and transplant those tomatoes that we have into our cups and containers and talk a little bit more about that method as well. Where's Bug at? What are you doing, kitty? We're inside now, and I'm at the light station, and we are going to get under there, check out our tomatoes that we will be in just a moment potting up into our cups. They'll spend a couple more weeks in those cups before we plant them outside into our bucket system, and some of them out at our community garden, and some of the leftovers we will hand out to some of our friends that I have. Let's get down in there and take a look at how those tomatoes have been going since we planted them out a couple episodes ago. Right. Definitely looking ready to move up out of these 6-packs. All right. So we'll head over to the table there and we'll go through the breaking these up, picking out our best ones and potting them up into our cups. That's got to be one of the best things about this time of year is the smell of tomato plants. Once you start messing around with them and they're touching their leaves, it's amazing. All throughout the year, one of my favorite things about gardening is the smell of the tomato plants. They're so fragrant. So we've got our tomatoes here. We're going to pick out the best 3 of each kind. A couple of kinds I'm going to take 4 of. We'll have 30 basically all potted up after that. I'll save a few others for some friends and neighbors that I'll pass on to some other people. But for the most part, that's basically what we'll do with these tomatoes. Just like our peppers, we're going to prepare our cups in a very similar fashion. I got a different style cup here. It's a little squares, but what we're going to do is just like we did before, cut out the holes on the bottom for the roots to get through to, and for the plant to feed from the bottom up. And we'll put them into another container there. With the tomato plant though, one of the things that we're going to do, kind of like the pepper plant, where we buried it up just a little bit above where the start was before, the tomato plant, as you've probably seen in other videos and whatnot, is you understand that you can plant this all the way up basically, and that's what we're going to do. We're basically going to remove the first 2 leaves off of the plant, and then we're going to bury it straight up just below the top. And at that point in time, you'll get a root growth along the stem. We'll bury it down, and the root growth will happen along through inside of the container. It'd be perfect. So what we'll do with these, let's take a look. A nice root structure. I am going to take this other plant versus this plant. I'm not going to be looking to save that one too much. And we'll just pretty much pull that one aside. Get soil from our put too much in there because we're going to bury that right down in there. Level it up about where you can see it's going to be there. Just below, right there. Water that in. Give it a nice drink. have to say that that is one of the harder parts of doing selective gardening like this, is having to pick and choose which one of the ones get to survive and which ones have to go. Especially when you got such good plants this year. Tomatoes all were really exceptional. We picked out the best ones we thought, and we'll see how they do this season. Let's go take a look at them. All right, so we've got all of our tomatoes planted out in the cups. As I said, they will spend the next couple of weeks in the cups here, and then we will harden them off to be outside and put into our bucket system that we have along the fence and alleyway. And I've got a couple of other spots, plus we'll put some out at our community garden as well. Let's take a minute here. I'm going to show you we've also planted out some squash and cucumbers also. All right, everyone, we're going to take a moment to plant out our squash and our zucchini seeds. So we're basically going to get those ready to go. A couple weeks, they'll be ready to head out into the garden. All right, first what we're going to do is we're going to dig out a couple of holes for our squash seeds. Each pot, we're just going to put in a couple of holes. And just a quick look at our peppers. We'll be doing a pepper episode coming up here in a couple of weeks where we'll harden these off and get them ready to go outside into our rooftop garden. So all right, we've got a lot of things seeded up, planted out, and going to be ready here in a couple of weeks to harden off and go out into our garden spaces here at home and the community gardens. I want to thank you so much for watching the channel today, and if you can, please subscribe. And if you have any questions or anything to say about any of our episodes, the tomatoes that we planted out today, please hit me up in the comment section down below. Thanks again. Out here, we'll get this going. We'll get this going. This right here. All right, everybody.